Welcome back to State of the Nation. Right behind me, data feeds still coming through one place simultaneously on all our social media platforms. You can be part of the show. Just tweet at _Gimba Umar and use the hashtag State of the Nation. Your thoughts here on the show. On the subject is the biggest story yet, the signing of the 2016 budget by the President Muhammad Buhari. The budget will determine the spending pattern over the next 1 year. Joining me now to discuss this, a financial analyst with AfriInvest, Mr. Robert Omotunde. I want to thank you so much indeed for joining us on State of the Nation at this time. What do you make of this budget 2016? Does it present a way forward for investors?
Thank you, Gimba, for having me this evening. It's a good news that's coming to the country right now about the signing of the 2016 budget. Of course, it's been much awaited before now, and we can tell that it's going to be a positive event that has taken place for the country in terms of how investment landscape is going to be shaped. But just to put in perspective, the budget that has been signed is a budget of about 6.1 trillion naira, which is a departure from the average 4 trillion naira budget which has been signed in the last 4 years. And of particular note in this particular budget is the fact that about 30% of the budget is going to be spent on capital expenditure, and that amounts to a total of about 1.8 trillion naira. Before looking at the breakdown of what these specific ministries where this budget will be deployed, the basic assumptions for the budget, in our opinion, are kind of modest, because if you look at it as against what you have always witnessed in the past, only about 20% of government revenue estimated is going to be coming from oil, and that is going to account for about estimated 800 billion naira. But of interest is the fact that, yes, now that the budget has been signed, we can begin to see specific deployment into different sectors or different ministries. The budget presents about 433 billion naira to be expended in the Ministry of Works, Power and Housing. We agree with me that this is a very critical sector that is expected to drive the economy of the country in terms of contract awarded, in terms of even the multiplier effect the spending is going to have on the overall economy.
So now let's look at the major problem has always been the implementation. We've had really great budgets in the past up till this time. The implementation seems to be the major problem. What are your forecasts for the 2016 budget?
Well, in our view, we think the current government is trying to take a departure from what we have always experienced in the past government. And of course, that is the main goodwill that this current government rode on to come into government as at now. So we believe, we are positive, and we believe that the government is going to focus on the implementation of this project to the letter. Where we were thinking there may be issues are the basic revenue assumptions. And in our opinion, as I said earlier, we think the current budget is modest. About 1.4 trillion naira is expected to come from non-oil revenue, and another 1.5 trillion naira will be coming from independent sources, which are revenue that are expected to be generated from government MPAs, ministry, department, and agencies, who before now has been running more or less in an inefficient manner. So we think with the current efficiency that's been brought in place, particularly as we have heard the current Minister of Finance talking about blocking the leakages and ensuring that ministries, departments, and agencies run efficiently. So we believe that this will not be a major constraint, and we think the government is focused and would know they also know the impact the budget is likely to have on the overall economy if the right things are done. But I must say at this point that although there has been too much focus on the budget, we must not lose sight of the complex macroeconomic system
Permit me to just chip in there.
Right.
The budget wants to achieve borrowing at a single rate of 9%. Will this work against the dollar certificates being issued to state governments? Tell us.
Sorry, say that again. I didn't get that.
Yes, I'm just asking you that the budget wants to work with 9% borrowing at single rate. Will this work against the dollar certificates being issued to state governments?
Well, to put this in proper perspective, the amount of deficit that the budget estimated is about 2.2 trillion naira, which will amount to about 2.2% of the of deficit to GDP. And the kind of borrowing that the government is looking at is both internal and external. And in our opinion, the chunk of internal and external borrowing is put at almost at the same level. So about 900 billion naira is expected to be generated from the domestic market. And in line with what the government has been doing through the debt management office, a number of this borrowing has been done in the year. I think by our estimate, there's an option that is coming up by the debt management office. So that will put the total borrowing to about 500 billion naira. And the average rate at which the government has been issuing this instrument at the prevailing yield in the market, which is about 11 to 12%. So for the domestic borrowing, we do not see the possibility of the government raising the deficit financing at a single ticket. However, for the external borrowing, which in our view we think the government may be targeting issuing maybe an euro bond if the market allows them to do that, or probably leveraging on their interaction with global financing agencies to be able to access this funding maybe at a single rate for the external borrowing. But for the domestic borrowing, the possibility of the government doing that at a single rate is not in sight.
Okay. Let me get your thoughts. Let me get your thoughts, and let's try to bring this home as it concerns the artisans, the woman who sells in the market, who is trading. Basically, we know that inflation rates has gone as high as in some area up to 17%. Is this budget comfortable enough to guarantee that we begin to see that it affects people positively, and people are beginning to see value in their worth? As you know, state governments are unable to pay salaries. Also, we've got the dollar against the naira plummeting. What's the way forward?
Well, we must also put this in proper perspective. The budget that has been signed is a federal government budget. You recall that since the beginning of the year, the Federal Account Allocation Committee, that's the FAC, has been sharing from the Federation account since the beginning of the year. The state governments also have their respective budget, which is predicated on the oil revenue inflow and all other non-oil sources of revenue that the government is generating. But in respect to the federal government budget, which of course most of what we have seen in the year are recurrent spending, it is positive for capital expenditure at this time. However, if you look at the various macroeconomic indicators, like you mentioned, inflation rate, which is currently at 12.8%,
I'm afraid that we're going to have to leave it at that. Always valid your thoughts. Financial analyst Robert Omotunde, many thanks indeed for talking to us on State of the Nation. Many thanks as well for watching our viewers. The budget 2016 has been signed into law, which hopes that it be profitable for everyone. That's State of the Nation. I'm Gimba Umar. Bye for now.